An audience member told me that there's nothing wrong with money hatting because it's always been standard practice in the gaming industry. When I asked for an elaboration, they pretty much said, well, nobody buys a platform with the expectation to play every single game. And just because it's been done that way, it doesn't have anything wrong inherently with it. Now, that's an argument to tradition. It's a fallacy pretty much, saying just because it's always been done that way means it's okay. No, it doesn't explain why it is not anti-consumer and not anti-competitive. Everybody knows. In fact, the Black Myth Wukong situation was the funniest because everybody had a different story to find a way to either pin it on PlayStation or unpin it from PlayStation. Why? Because everybody knew that this was a game that was announced to come on the Xbox and everybody was looking forward to it. But somewhere, somehow, the marketing changed tunes and now the game is going to be somewhat delayed for the Xbox platform. So Xbox users wanted to know, was it the Series S? The Xbox players were asking. The PlayStation players were saying it was a Series S. Then news articles came out, and some of these journalists said we have sources. Richard Ledbetter, someone who focuses mostly on performance metrics, even he came out and said, yo, there are ways that they can do this stuff. Then we also got Jez Corden come out and say it. Then Microsoft came out and pretty much didn't say it, but kind of said, yo, we can't comment on deals made by other people. Then they came out and said, well, we've not heard anything about any, technical issues from this game that have been forwarded to us. Then we saw the Crimson Desert developer say, yeah, they try to make us ban Xbox and we refused them. All of that have just weighed more and more to people continue to think about it being a sinister practice at best and anti-consumer and anti-competitive at worst. Now, why am I staking a lot of my content on this particular aspect of the conversation? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. For the longest time, we've been told that PlayStation is dominant. However, what we've not been told is the whole picture of how they've been able to achieve such a perception of dominance. And if a lot of the folk who are saying money hatting is fine admit that it's not fine, that reduces the so-called dominance that PlayStation has because it was not achieved by any means that they can categorize as fair. Because all this while, the dominance of PlayStation has been perceived to be the PlayStation platform alone. So anybody that now knows that a game has the intention to come to the Xbox is now going to question or judge that dominance. Like, why would they even want to go to Xbox? I thought PlayStation was dominant. I thought PlayStation had more console sales, which is stuff that Xbox and PlayStation players have been bickering back and forth. So that's the reason why I want to pretty much continue to make the case and find anybody that can refute the case other than telling me that it's, because it's been done that way, as to why money hatting a game, pretty much blocking a game that was already going to another platform from going to the platform, why that practice is anti-consumer and anti-competitive. I'm going to give my views. Anti-consumer, number one. PlayStation or whoever blocks a platform from receiving a game wants you to solely engage with their own platform. Even with Epic Games, just the fact that they want you to download another launcher caused a lot of PC players to ignore and ghost the platform with games like Metro Exodus and games like the Kingdom Hearts game. A lot of people were like, on principle, this game was more than likely going to be going to other PC platforms that allow for DRM and all the other stuff. We're not going to download the Epic Games launcher for this game. Now, I myself played Metro Exodus at launch. I remember playing it on the Epic Games store. And I remember even at that time saying, well, Steam needed to be more competitive and reduce its cut. But I found out that Epic's own motives were not necessarily about reducing the price that they shared with developers, claiming that Steam's 30% was too high. They wanted to find a way to hedge the market. So I was mistaken, and I found out that their motives at the time seemed sinister. So if a game stays exclusive on the Epic Games Store, on principle, I don't touch it. I let it just sit there until it's ready to come to the Steam store and other stores before I decide that I'm going to buy it. And that's not even as bad as the PlayStation and Xbox One, because in this case, they want you to buy a new device, hence pushing you to the point where you spend more money to go ahead and play this one game. And that's where the anti-consumer side is. Compared to a pro-consumer stance, which they make the game or let the game be available for everybody and not block it. And you, depending on the platform that you've played and your expectations to play a third-party game of a developer that has traditionally brought its games to Xbox or PlayStation, you can get access to the game. That's the anti-consumer and pro-consumer side of the conversation. Is there anything else that I need to add to this? Is this not understood? Do we not get it? Do we not know? We do know. Now for the anti-competitive side of it. When you sign a contract for a game that you did not pay to develop, but you want to go ahead and incentivize the developer to harm Xbox, because you know if you block the game from going to Xbox, it would probably not allow for people to maybe go ahead and buy your platform, but it will make them get a perception that this platform is not good enough. That's why the developer does not want to bring their game there. And that harms the other platform from a perception perspective and from a customer behavior perspective. It's obvious. You can't tell me that this stuff is not anti-competitive, folks. Like if you buy the studio and you decide you don't want to take it to the other person, that's fine. It's now yours. If you buy a house and you don't want to let your in-laws come visit you, I'm not going to yell at you and say you must let your in-laws come visit you. It's your house. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I can understand that you acquired the IP, you acquired the property or the asset, and so you can choose to lock it away from whatever platform you want. However, if the platform, like say in the case of Starfield and the rumors that we heard, not even rumors, in the FTC trial, that PlayStation was trying to money hat that game and block it from going to Xbox. Why? Why did they want to do that? They already have the console sales. They had the console sales from the PS4 days. They didn't have to worry. They were going to sell the most amount of Starfield anyways, but they still wanted to go ahead and block it from Xbox. That is anti-competitive. That to me is vitriolic. Anybody that says anything otherwise because it's normal practice, that's bogus. And when Xbox was doing it back in the day, it was also nasty and vitriolic and trash. I remember complaining about it in the Tomb Raider saga. I remember feeling the exact same way. So I'm not going to sit here and let my hypocrisy get the best of me. I have to maintain similar energy levels. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Not saying that I got it all right. Not saying that I don't have any hypocrisy in me. I do. We're all hypocrites. But in this particular case, I strongly believe that if any developer is going out there to make a game, that these companies need not interfere. But at least if they can do anything to allow for the game to get to their audiences, then they should. But blocking the game from going to other audiences, now that's low. The other side, the developers themselves. Some of you have said I should give some blame to the developer. Well, I'm not going to hold you accountable for not watching my 100 and something videos because honestly, I do make these videos, a lot of them. I have said nonetheless in other videos that the developers are accountable because they get to ultimately make the decision. I mean, look at Pearl Abyss. The developers over there for Crimson Desert, they said, no, we don't want an exclusivity deal with you. But they found out that they were in a position where they could publish their game. In the case of Stellar Blade, I think somebody mentioned that was close to this whole thing with the Pearl Abyss thing that they didn't have any knowledge as to the publishing. So they decided that they were going to go with PlayStation. But PlayStation could have still published it and still made money. Like Activision went ahead and published Sekiro. You can do that as a publisher. But to then add the part where you block the game from Xbox, that's where the sting is. Those of you that continue saying that this is me being salty because I can't play the game and all of that, you're just gaslighting and you're trying to pretty much deflect from what's going on. You don't like to see PlayStation in a realistic light when they're painted that way. But that's what this company has become. The company has become a company where even the people who use the platform defend it for doing things that are anti-consumer and anti-competitive to be able to move themselves forward. This perception is what you've built PlayStation on. So now that it's actually foundationally being shred into nonsense, it's kind of hard to let it go because, you know, you've said all this while that PlayStation was A, B, C, D, E, but finding out that they're just an empty shell of a corporation that's here to make a buck, you now feel that, you know, some way, somehow, a practice that you know is not good, you know is anti-consumer, you know is anti-competitive, is now something that some people want to permit in the conversation. That's not fair. The anger and the wrath and the vitriol that I felt when Rise of the Tomb Raider was an Xbox exclusive back in the PS4 time, I still feel that same way. Because yes, I only had a PlayStation at the time and I was not going to go buy an Xbox. Now that I even have all of the different platforms, I could say it's not my business. I could play it wherever it is I want. but that's not consistent with the practice itself. So we need to keep it the same. The day Microsoft does it, please hit me up in the comment section on Twitter. Let me know. I'm going to be happy to make a video. I'm happy to make a video, guys. You got to understand, I welcome making these videos. So yes, I'll be happy to make a video. Hopefully, God willing, we're here and point it out as the exact same thing. That's where we are in this conversation. See, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, whoever they are, they're all out here to make a buck. However, we cannot permit them to make a buck at the expense of the gamer's own interests. That's not how business should be done, in my opinion. Do business in a way that respects the business. If everybody went out there and started playing dirty games, those of you that are on PlayStation, you're not going to have any games to play. For real. If Xbox opened its wallets and went into money hat the way PlayStation was and blocked games from going to PlayStation and actually give them PlayStation level sales, they could do it. They got the money to do it. Have you ever considered that? Right? But usually you see that, they pretty much are seemingly taking a backward stance. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some games that are still under question whether or not they money hatted it. We've talked about Stalker, and some of you have, my conclusion is that they did not money had that game. I mean, I listened to what you guys said. I made the video saying, man, they money hatted this game. Some of you said, no, go back and revise the evidence at hand. I did that. And my conclusion is that this game was a different situation. I've looked at the Wartide situation, and I'm still doing my investigation to see if they did that with Darktide. I said Wartide, Warhammer Darktide, and even any other games. Now, if the developers decide they need help, they feel like they can make headway into the industry, going with an Xbox, exclusive first, or say for their convenience, they decide they're going to put the game on Xbox first before going to PlayStation, so they can raise some money. Well, that's a whole different thing. It's the developer's discretion that they're actually taking. There is nuance in the conversation, but some of them are just blatantly anti-competitive, and those are the ones that we need to point out and call out. Let PlayStation win based on its own merits. Let Xbox win based on its own merits. Whether the merit be Microsoft money or whether the merit be having to have games that appeal to more gamers, it is still their merits. And this practice, let it no longer be defended. Or if you want to defend it, at least just say you're defending something that is scummy. And then it's your choice. But to say that it's not wrong and say because of tradition, that doesn't really help anything in the conversation. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Appreciate you all so much. Peace out.